This eerie story took place in one small town in the 19th century in the state of Kansas. It had been quiet and silent for centuries. There was an old church surrounded by abandoned graves. Hidden behind its walls was an underground cellar, overgrown with tall grass, tangled in thick weeds and shadows. This cellar was considered a cursed place. The locals believed it hid a portal to hell. No one ventured too close to it, and there was always a smell of decay and damp around the church. The local priest had a daughter, Lily. She was a quiet and lonely girl with dark hair, pale skin, and sad eyes. Since childhood, she lived in the shadows of the church and in the old cemetery. Lily rarely interacted with people, only her father and the neighbourhood boy, Jack, with whom she was madly in love. They had been friends since childhood, and Lily believed their souls were forever linked. However, Jack chose another girl, Jenny, simple and kind, but far from the darkness and silent tenderness that was in Lily's heart. When Lily found out that Jack and Jenny were engaged, her heart was torn to pieces. Envy settled in her soul, and her spirits began to turn black. From the day of the wedding, Lily began having nightmares. She dreamed she was walking among dark graves, haunted by unfamiliar voices that sounded from hell itself. A few months later, Lily learned that Jenny was pregnant. This news awakened an intense, beastly hatred in her. Soon after the baby was born, Lily decided to commit what would later go down in history as the most gruesome act of revenge. One gloomy autumn day, as the winds rumbled like a devil's chorus, Lily visited Jack and Jenny. Jack opened the door and cordially invited her in, not noticing himself how her eyes lit up in the darkness. Jenny was holding their baby, wrapped in a warm blanket. When Lily had first laid eyes on the baby, she had been overcome with such madness. She had barely restrained herself from grabbing the infant. There was only one voice in her head from that moment on: revenge. She left, but a plan for retribution was already firmly planted in her mind. Lily spent the night in the cellar, behind the church, kneeling on the cold, damp ground. She invoked unknown forces, whispered incomprehensible words, and her voice dissolved into the darkness of the dungeon. She heard whispers from the darkness, their voices penetrating her mind, promising her strength and help in her dark intentions. With each whisper, her hatred grew stronger. The next morning she emerged from the cellar, her face contorted in a cruel grin. She knew she was not alone now. She was accompanied by the shadows of hell. A few days passed, and one night Jack and Jenny heard an eerie creaking outside the window. They looked out and saw the silhouette of a woman, her figure clearly outlined in the moonlight. Jack went to the door, and when he opened it, he saw no one. When he returned to the house, he noticed that there were ominous symbols painted on the floor around the bed. The air was filled with an eerie odor, as if from dead people. Soon their infant began to be sick. The healers could find no cause, and Jack and Jenny heard whispers at night every day that sounded like sobs and cries of pain. A few days later, Lily came to their house again. She stood in front of Jack and Jenny, her face calm, but darkness in her eyes. She stood silent and did not utter a word, yet her presence made Jack feel a chilling dread, as if his heart had stopped. Lily turned to the baby, and Jenny, seized with fear, tried to cover it with her own, but could not. A loud, terrified scream echoed in her head as Lily stretched out her arms towards the infant. Since then, no one in town has seen Jenny, Jack, and their baby again. When their house was broken into, it looked as if they had disappeared in a hurry. They found marks on the bedroom floor, as if someone had tried to scratch something on the floorboards, leaving large scratches. On the walls were scratched unfamiliar symbols that looked like ominous curses. Rumor had it that Lily had left those marks, about a month after the disappearance of Jack, Jenny, and their child. Two local residents decided to look into the underground cellar behind the church walls. They saw a terrible picture. There were 3 lifeless bodies on the ground. They were Jack and Jenny, with a newborn baby between them. The town was plunged into an atmosphere of panic and fear. Lily wandered like a shadow around the church. Soon people noticed that everyone who crossed her path began to hear her whispers, as if she were talking to the dead. There was no emotion on her face anymore, and her sinister laughter in the night made the blood run cold. Now, in the night hours, moans and children's cries can be heard outside the cellar, spreading across the desolate land. Villagers say they sometimes see a female figure wandering in the darkness. Her eyes burn with red fire, and she holds something that looks like a baby blanket in her hands. She walks towards an old cellar, and the shadows follow her.